Big Z Reviews. Happy Death Day to You is a sequel to a Groundhog Day-esque movie that was like a thriller, like a slasher horror thriller that came out a couple years ago, and I did really enjoy, and I really enjoyed this film too. It's a great little film, although again, this, instead of kind of being a slasher, it almost turns itself more into like a science fiction film with a lot of comedy, and it works.
Dude, did you hit that or what?
I don't believe this. It's Monday the 18th! Again!
Go.
Stop global warming.
Go. Go. Go.
I'm dead! I'm dead!
Go, Shorty. It's your birthday.
I thought it ended the loop, but I'm back. Oh my god. Everything's different. This time, it's coming after all of us.
So the whole cast of characters make a return with a couple additions. But again, Jessica Ross is so good in this. Like, she's so interesting to watch and entertaining. Like, I think she really deserved to get a lot more roles after this, but she is excellent. And, you know, for this, I think they did a lot of interesting stuff. It starts off, you know, that they're a couple weeks after the event. It's not really clear how long after the original movie this was. And that's the one thing, for a lot of stuff that happens, like, she has to be in love with this guy and, you know, from the last film. And it's a little bit of a stretch, because I think if they had a year in between the two films and they've been dating for a year, it would have made more sense. But then some of the other stuff wouldn't have worked. But basically the setup is that, you know, the one friend, the Asian friend that, like, would always pop up when she wakes up, she will always pop into the room and make a odd comment. Like, he is actually a genius working on a special quantum physics device in the lab, and that created this whole loop. And some of the stuff they did with the science is actually kind of cool with the whole multiverse. A lot of stuff works, but the problem is that when you try to explain things, sometimes it's more unbelievable than when it just happens. Like, if it just happens, like in Groundhog Day in the first film, and you don't try to explain it, it's not that much of a stretch of the imagination. When you do explain it, or you try to explain it, it's like, that wouldn't quite work like that. Especially, like, being I majored in chemistry in college, and, you know, I know a lot of other chemistry people. I know my brother went to grad school. And they say that in a bigger school, and they say that if you're in a bigger school, even in a small school, an undergraduate student would not be able to have it run of his own lab and have built this thing that's like draining the power of the whole campus. Like, that wouldn't happen. A lot of times, even if you're in the postgraduate work, if you're like, you wouldn't. And sometimes, like, if you're in bigger schools, if you're in postgraduate and you're working on your master's or your doctorate, sometimes in a bigger school, you may still only be a glorified glassware washer for the postdoctorates that are working on whatever they're researching. So the idea that an undergraduate would have run of a lab and be able to build this thing is ridiculous. But, you know, it's more nitpicky, but it's just being there, I'm like, I don't know about that. You know, and stuff that happens there at the beginning of the film, like, it's slight spoiler, but not really, because it happens right at the beginning. Like, the person doing the killing, and that they send, again, the Asian guy, like, he is the one that's in the loop. And the person killing him is a version of himself. And then it happens, like, the machine that's doing it explodes and sends Tree to a different universe and back to that first day that she repeated all the other times. And now things are different. But they never really come back to the fact that there is a double. Like, when they go back, like, he just kind of disappears. They never really explain it, and it's kind of odd. But it's like a loose plot thread. They're like, oh, we need to set up the scene, so it doesn't really matter. But who knows? Maybe they'll do more with it in a third film, I guess. And in this new universe, I liked a lot of what they did. Like, it is slightly repetitive if you've seen the first film, because I like how they kind of change things, because some things are different in this universe. And like not a lot, but like some really important things for Tree's character, which changed who she was. So because it changed who she was, the murderers change. Yeah, I really like that angle because she was in the first film, like before the start of the film, she was a horrible person. Like she was horrible to her roommate and to our friends, and that she was sleeping with her teacher, and that created a lot of conflict that led to who the murderer was. This one, since her mother, well, this is again slight spoiler, but it's really for a setup for the film. But in this one, her mother is alive, and the other one, her mother is dead. And this, so that kind of completely changed her personality. And there's a lot of interesting things they do with it. It's like, with how that if she's going to try to close the loop and do something else, like, would she stay in this universe and essentially steal the life of the different version of her? Or would she go back to her own universe, again, but where her mother is dead? And there's a lot of emotional scenes with that, and really powerful scenes. And then again, throughout there's a lot of comedy too, because for a while there's stuff like From Edge of Tomorrow or Die Another Day or whatever they call it, but where like essentially she's having to learn all the equations for how the machine works, so that because they forget them all, so she has to memorize them, and then but before the end of the day she has to kind of kill herself, so that it's kind of horrific. Like if you focus too much on it, especially the most probably horrific one is like when she's in the grocery store and killed herself in the grocery store. It's like, ooh. But there's some funny ones too, with how she killed herself and how it fits in the rest of the story. And it's a fun montage, even though it's kind of horrific. I mean, there were a couple scenes that maybe dragged the movie down a little bit, like it dragged a little slow. But those scenes were hilarious. Like some of the scenes with the dean are hilarious, even though the idea that a dean would actually know what's going on in an undergraduate research lab is kind of stupid. But again, that's fine. But a lot of the stuff is really funny, and there's a lot of twists and turns. And it's funny though. Like in the first one, you're really the whole time you're trying to find out who is the murderer. And this one, it doesn't really matter. And I like that they kind of fit in who the murderer is. There's stuff to do with that are alternate scenes from the first movie. The alternate ending. I like that they kind of played with some of the stuff that they thought about doing in the previous one but didn't, and they did it in this one. Honestly, as a whole, I just really enjoyed this movie. It's nothing amazing, but I really liked it. Probably give it an 8 out of 10, 8.25 out of 10. Maybe 8.5 out of 10. It's somewhere around that range. I think I'd go 8.25 out of 10 for my score. But thanks for watching. You got the replays on my head and scratching that Z over there. Thanks. This has been a Big Z movie review. Thanks for watching.